Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Coming Down to Earth with Spirit podcast with me, David Hale. Like with Season 1, we will continue talking about all things spiritual in a real and down-to-earth way. So I hope you can join me on my podcast journey so you can learn from my own spiritual journey and experiences with spirit in order to help you on your own spiritual journey and development. So join me now as we get into this episode. Well, hello everybody and welcome to a brand new season of this podcast. As the intro said there, this is Season 2 of the Coming Down to Earth with Spirit podcast. For those of you that have listened to Season 1, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy Season 2 as much as you hopefully enjoyed Season 1. And if you are new to the podcast, you're all very welcome. And I hope that you do enjoy this podcast as well. And if you haven't listened to Season 1, you can go back and listen to it. You might find some interesting episodes there, some interesting topics that we talked about. But Season 2 also hopes to be just as interesting as Season 1 was. So do stick around, and I hope you, hope you enjoy the content that's coming. So Season 2, let's talk about Season 2 quickly and what is Season 2 going to be about. So Season 2 overall will hopefully be just as informative as Season 1 was, and maybe in a slightly different way. And what I mean by that is, with Season 2, we're going to introduce some new series to the podcast. So what I mean by that is, in Season 1, we had two series. We had the Spiritual Impact series and the Listener Questions series. So for Season 2, the Listener Questions series, that will still continue because I think that's a great way of keeping the podcast interactive, because I'm answering questions that you, the public, are giving me to answer. And as you know, this podcast is about being informative. It's about sharing my knowledge with you so you can all learn something from it as well. And the best way to do that is for you to ask the questions that you want to know the answers to. And I already have a list of questions that have come in already for Season 2, which is great. So that series will continue. For Season 2, we're going to discontinue the Spiritual Impacts series, and instead, we're going to replace it with two new series. So firstly, these two new series are named after a couple of Janet Jackson songs, because I am people who don't know me will not know that I'm a big Janet Jackson fan. I love Janet. I'm a big fan of Janet. And so I'm taking inspiration from her. She's currently on tour, which is why it's kind of fresh in my mind to do. I'm going to take a couple of titles from two of her songs and use them as new series for Season 2. So the first one is going to be called The Knowledge. And the Knowledge series is going to be used to talk about topics. So not necessarily answering your questions, but I will be talking about different topics within the spiritual and mediumship field, whether it be reincarnation or the clairsenses or the mechanics of mediumship. So it's still an informative series. And so it'll just be me talking about certain topics that I think we need to talk about, or topics that you also bring to my attention that you want me to discuss. The other episode is called The Free Zone, and The Free Zone is a series where we can talk about anything that's kind of, I guess, related to mediumship and spirituality. But if there are any other topics that you'd like me to talk about, which is not necessarily in the vein of spirituality, we can use that series to talk about it as well, whether it be mental health or whether it be things about myself. You know, what have I learned? You might want to talk about some other things that are not necessarily spiritually related, but it's still kind of within the realm of wellness and spirituality and that kind of thing. So the Free Zone is another new series. And also with Season 2, I'm going to introduce some guided meditations. So there are some guided meditations already on my YouTube channel, but I'm going to turn them into a podcast episode. So they might be more easily accessible to people. Rather than having to go into YouTube and search for the video, you can come straight to the podcast, press play, and you've got your guided meditation. So that will be included in Season 2 as well. So I hope that sounds good and it's keeping your interest there. What I thought I'd do with this intro episode is, rather than keep it as a 4-minute introduction to season 2, I thought I'd also include a bit about me, because I had a question which I haven't really answered before, and it's just for you guys to get to know me a bit better. And the question has come from a lovely lady called Rachel. And the question is, outside of mediumship, what are your hobbies and interests? So I thought I would talk about this within this introduction episode, just to kind of reintroduce myself to you guys and let you know about, what other things am I interested in, just so you can gain an idea about who I am, what I like, and get to know me a bit better. So, you've heard me talk about Janet Jackson already. So I'm a big Janet Jackson fan. I've been following her work for a number of years. I've got all her CDs. Yes, I still have a CD collection. I've seen her in concert. I've got her t-shirts. I've got tour programs. I watch on YouTube regularly, and she's currently on tour as well. So I've been watching those tour clips. I used to learn her dance routines. So I'm a big Janet fan without sounding like a bit of a stalker. But no, I love her music, the lyrics that go with it, her presence, her stage presence, her performance, the choreography, and it's just one of those artists which I really enjoy and that has inspired me in different ways. But I think music in general is a big thing for me, and I think music for a lot of people is inspiring, and it helps people through certain situations. And music for me, I listen to music every single day, whether I'm in the car, at home, or at the gym. And I've been listening to music, since I was a very, very small child. It's always been part of my life, whether it be played by my dad in the house or in the car, or by my stepdad in the house or in the car. So music's always been part of my life. And I've got photographs of me as a kid sat on the sofa with my headphones on and the old cassette deck. The old cassette players, the cassette deck that I'm listening to my music on as well. So it's always been a big part of me, music. And with music comes dance as well. So I enjoy dancing. I don't do it so much anymore. Actually, I don't do it at all unless it's in the comfort of my house. But no, I've been dancing since I could walk, really. There are pictures of me on the dance floor at a holiday camp, and I think from what I've been told, I won a little prize. I was only about 2, but I won a little prize for the best dancer as well. And as I got a bit older, I got into street dancing, so I joined a couple of street dance troupes, and we did some showcasing with street dance as well. So that gives you a bit of an idea of the kind of music I'm into. I'm very much into R&B, hip hop, soul, funk, hip hop, jazz, crossover, so all that style of music, because because I can dance. I've got the rhythm, you see, and R&B for me has that rhythm and that melody that you can really dance to, which does surprise some people, because a lot of people think that I'm dancing around my handbag to Lady Gaga, Cher and Dolly Parton, which I'm not. And that's not being disrespectful to those ladies. They're very talented artists in their own right, but it's just not my cup of tea. What else? Gymnastics, well, not so much anymore, but it was a big hobby of mine when I was a lot younger. So I was a competitive gymnast as a kid. I've got about 17 medals, which are in a food bag, in a box, in a wardrobe at home somewhere. And then by the age of 14, I won the national championships with my partner. So it was in the category of sports acrobatics. So it was myself and a partner, and we won national championships. And then shortly after that, I gave gymnastics up. And it's one of those things that I wished I'd have continued for a little bit longer. I don't regret giving it up when I did, but I really enjoyed that sport, and I wasn't a sporty person. You just got to look at my eyebrows to tell. But yeah, I was really good at it, and I enjoyed it. But hey ho, life puts you on a certain path at different times of your life, and so I obviously went down a different path. But no, if gymnastics is on the TV or something, I'll try and watch it, or I might see clips on YouTube. I just love the skill and the abilities that people have with gymnastics. It's a great sport, actually. It's a great sport to watch. Even though people took the mickey out of me for doing it, I got on with it, and I won my medals and my trophy, and yeah, no, it was a great sport to be a part of. So although not being a a sporty person really. I do like to keep fit. I'm quite health conscious. I'm quite conscious about what I eat. Obviously, we go through those times where, we can't be bothered with the diet, so we eat what we want. But no, in general, I tend to trying to keep myself quite fit and quite healthy. I've been working out for a long time, but I only took it seriously when I hit 30. And I you start seeing changes within the body. I didn't like my physique. I've never liked my physique anyway. So at 30, I decided to do something about it, and I got myself pretty fit. And then as you get into your 40s, like I am now, you start to see certain parts of the body drop. So currently I'm trying to keep my backside above the back of my knees. And you do notice those changes. And yes, to some people, 40 is not old, and 40 is not old, but you do start to see changes in the body. And so you try to do as much as you can to keep yourself fit and healthy. And for me, it's not from a vain perspective, but, it's, for me, the family history, there's heart disease in my family. So you've got to try and keep the heart healthy. And that comes with diet and not just exercise, when you've got to do both together. But, the older I've got, the more I find it's more important to try and keep myself in some kind of shape as well. But then again, it's not just about your physical health. It's also about your mental health as well. Well, for me, it is anyway. I know I always feel better about myself, and I feel good after workout as well. And I know if I've gone too long without working out, I do feel a bit, we have that. We feel a bit like we're in a bit of a lull. We feel a bit like, not like lethargic and not very energetic. So when I've done a workout, I always feel a bit better. So it's good for the mind as well. What else? Travel. I do like to travel, and I've travelled a lot previously with a previous job that I had. I got to live in France to live and work in France for 6 months, and I travelled with that job. I also travelled to our European offices to work there as well. But yeah, it's always good to see different parts of the world, or just different parts of the country that you're in. We do like to get on a plane and go abroad, and I very much do as well. But there's also different parts of your country which are beautiful. There's parts of the UK which are beautiful, and there's still a lot more of it for me to explore, a lot more of the world for me to explore. So I do like to travel as well. And Thailand, I have to say, was one of my favourite destinations. It was a birthday trip that my other half surprised me with. He didn't tell me he was booking it. He organised everything. Got my mum and my sister to come as well without me even knowing. And that's for my 37th birthday, so a few years ago. But yeah, Thailand was a great place to visit. Beautiful weather. The people were gorgeous. I love Thai food anyway. But yeah, a great place to visit. So along with travel, I do like language. I like, if there's one thing I really wish I was bilingual. I'd love to be able to speak another language fluently. And, but if I look back at my own past with language, at school, I was very, very good at German. I did German and French for a few years until I dropped French. I never really got on with French. I didn't like it, didn't understand it. So eventually I dropped the French language, but I continued with German. And actually, when I left school, the highest grade I got was in German. So I was very good at it. And my stepmother is half German. And I remember when she got married to my dad, her grandparents, who were German, came over, and they didn't speak a word of English, but I was able to have a conversation with them in German. But language is one of those things where if you don't use it, you lose it. And so when I left school, I never spoke it. I spoke it at school because you're in German class, right? The teacher would speak to you in German, so you had no choice but to speak German. I went to Germany twice with the school on a school exchange and stayed with the German family. And so again, you speak German, so the language is constantly being used. But again, if it's one of those things, if you don't use it, you lose it. Same with Spanish. I was learning Spanish for a long time. And I was quite good at Spanish, but I can't have a conversation in it, but I can understand some things they say. I can read it and understand a lot of the words. But again, when you stop studying it or you stop using it, is you kind of lose it. I guess if you go back into the languages and start restudying them, then you'll pick it up again. But also, if you're not in the country where they speak the language, it's difficult to keep the language up unless you know a load of Spanish speakers. Do you know what I mean? So, but Spanish, I've always been drawn to the Spanish language. I've been to Gran Canaria, God knows how many times. And we try to, I mean, my other half, both of us actually, we try to speak a little bit of Spanish whilst we're there, even if it's just to say thank you or yes or no or whatever it might be. We try to do that. And going back to French, when I was asked to live and work in France for 6 months with a previous job company that I worked for, I made the attempt to try and relearn French again. Although I wasn't a fan of the language at school and I didn't quite get it, I decided that, if I'm living in this country for 6 months, and the French are very patriotic about their language, right? Even if you go into a shop and they know you're English, they won't attempt to speak English back to you. They will try and make you speak French. And when I moved to France in 2013 for 6 months, I didn't speak. Obviously I knew, yes or no and some of the numbers and whatever. But I'd forgotten a lot of it from school. But I did learn a lot of French in the 6 months I was there. I did speak a little bit of it to the people I was working with because they were French as well. And so I was getting really good at it. But then when I came back from France after the 6 month period, I stopped speaking it. And again, you then lose it. So, if you ask me now to have a conversation in French, I couldn't do it. However, I think I can still do speak the numbers and a few basic things, and actually in all the languages. So I can count. I can count in 3 languages and the days of the week in 3 languages and those kind of things. But have a conversation in those languages, I ain't got a chance. And then finally, I'm trying to learn Polish because my other half is Polish and obviously he speaks English. So he is bilingual. But yeah, we've been together 5 years and 5 years today, actually. Oh, it's my anniversary today. Been together 5 years today and I still barely speak any Polish. Polish is a very difficult language. I've got to say, obviously to a Polish person, it's not difficult. My other half says to me, no, it's not difficult. I say, yes, it is. How do you pronounce a word which has 1 vowel in it? Or how, the number 3 itself is spelt T-R-Z-Y. I'm like, how the hell would you pronounce a word with no vowel at all? So I'm trying to study it bit by bit. I can count to 10 in Polish, but I won't do it now. But yeah, language is just something that interests me. I like going to a different country and hearing them speak the language. So yeah, anyway, language is another interesting hobby of mine. What else? Ancestry, genealogy. That's one of my big hobbies, big interests. I've been doing the family tree for the past 14 years and I've found out lots and lots and lots of information, but the records are updated all the time. So even 14 years later, I'm still finding new things out about people in the family. But it just interests me. I'm quite nosy, actually, when it comes to that kind of thing, because, I'm not afraid of what I'd find out. I guess in some families, there might be, some saucy things going on, which, people don't want you to find out about. But hey, you can't change what happened in the past. I'm not responsible for what family members did in the past or whatever. You can't change it. But it's interesting because I like to know where I come from. And you hear so many stories in your lifetime about, your grandfather told me this, or mum would say to me, your granddad thinks his grandmother was from Spain, and I found out she wasn't from Spain at all. And you hear other stories in the family, which I've demystified a lot of things that I found out as well. And it's like in families, you get those, it's like Chinese whispers. That story is handed down and that story is handed down. And while it's handed down, it's changed. And then it changes again once it's handed down. So with the research that you do find out, you can either validate some things or you find out some things were complete fabrication. And that's what I quite like, actually. I think, I'd encourage anyone to do their family tree. But you have to have that kind of investigative part of you, because it is a lot of things is, when you look at things, a lot of it is by process of elimination as well. So it does take a lot of patience, I've got to say, a lot of time, a lot of investment into it as well. But yeah, if you are someone who likes to do a bit of investigating, a bit of detective work, which I do quite enjoy that. And then, whatever you find out, you can share with your own loved ones, because, my own parents didn't know very much about their grandparents or great grandparents. So my grandparents on both sides didn't really talk about their families for whatever reason. So, when you start digging into things, you can really find out certain things that the family didn't know. So then you get to share that knowledge, that family history with your close ones as well. So it's all very interesting. I feel that's probably about it for my interests. I hope you found it interesting, and just get to know me a little bit better about what I like, what I'm into, what I enjoy, apart from the spiritual stuff. But there you go. So thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you all again very soon. Well, there you have it. That's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed what you heard and you found it interesting. There are plenty more episodes to come, so stay tuned, and I'll speak to you all soon.